Hello, I am on? Yes. Beautiful to see all of you. It feels good, no? Yes. Just to feel this energy of this Virgin who is all over us. Let's take a second to just let it sink in. What it's like to feel a female, an energy of the feminine, right here, embedding every one of us. And a country and a people who welcome us here. What a privilege to enjoy this land and these people. So let's meet at that place where we are really grateful for being alive in this moment. I welcome you. I grew up questioning the status of women in the church, which in my country, the Dominican Republic, is predominantly, as here in Mexico, the Roman Catholic Church. Even though supposedly the Son of God was born from the Virgin Mary, placing her in exalted position as the Mother of God. Still, you can see her as the Mother of God. What are we talking about when we say the Mother of God? So it's the feminine energy that gives birth to life. Still, I didn't see an equal presence of women in leadership along with men. The patroness of my country is the Virgin of Altagracia. Her feast day is January 21st, which is a holiday for the country. Everybody celebrate the Virgin of Altagracia. Even my grandfather did it. Growing up, I remember all of us girls each morning bringing a calla lily to the church as part of the celebration. It was beautiful. You have everybody coming with this flower because it was the Virgin of Altagracia. So the devotion was tremendous. And for that day, the female energy could be felt everywhere because it was celebrating everywhere. So, but the inequality that I witnessed within the church system made me to really feel like religion probably is not my direction. The age in which we are living today can be called a baptism of sorts, as we live in a time when many spiritual and religious traditions have begun to recognize that the divine nature exists in every one of us. Whether we turn, I needed a tape. There is a, whether we turn into the spirituality and religious paradigms, there is a stirring voice saying, the God that humanity thought was out there somewhere is inside of us, in whatever form fits one's sensitivity. Is inside of us. That is a tremendous shift in the world religion. From God be there, oh, it's here. At the same time, there has occurred another development where people who are committed to coming into full consciousness have begun to realize that the feminine nature is emerging as the most important manifestation of the human transformation, individually and collectively. This idea was brought by the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, not totally, and the brilliant female analysts who explore the realm of the psyche and the archetypal world. The patriarchal religious and social system of the East or the West have brought us to the brink of a global catastrophe, environmental and human disaster. The suppression and exclusion of the feminine aspect of divinity has left God alone, totally alone and isolated, without being able to incarnate, since it is the feminine aspect of humanity that contains the primordial vessel. The feminine is the vessel that contains the process of regeneration. This emerging feminine nature can be seen as the capacity for everyone to gestate within themselves a new direction, the possibility to begin to incarnate our divinity by striving for wholeness instead of perfection. Wholeness. And wholeness means everything come together. Black and white, good and bad, rich and poor. Wholeness means totality. Without the feminine aspect of our nature becoming conscious in us, individually and collectively, there is no incarnation. Rather, a spiritual depravation. The rising of the goddess imagery in so many places and cultures simultaneously has to do with the restoration of the feminine aspect of spirituality, giving birth to the recognition of the incarnation of divinity in each one of us. So when we talk about incarnation in each one of us, it's an invitation to really land the divine from the sky, far away, full of intellectuals, ideas, back home, here, in this body. In this body that goes through all those different transformations that some of you just talk about, and even say, this piece, this part, it's a hard one. In this stage of this life, we're facing challenging. And still, in that midst of the challenging, there is divine here. In Mexico, I found a richer culture than in my country in her acknowledgement of the feminine iconography in the religious streams of popular celebrations. The Virgin of Guadalupe in this land rose to the highest place any deity could achieve. Living here in my 20s, I became curious about this phenomenon and was unable to ignore the power of the feminine even when I had nothing to do with the church. Many local festivities were centered around feminine images. For example, the celebration of the Virgin of Zapopan on October 12th. It happened annually in Guadalajara. I invite you to make that pilgrimage because you will not believe what happened in there. At least in that time, that was amazing. The indigenous people from all over the places coming to that celebration. Full of art, full of color, rhythm, music, food, and dance. Because dance is a very important part of the embodiment of the feminine for men and women. Dance is how we land in this body, and we move energy, and we embrace life. As you know, we have many shrines and images here in the Lakeside of the Virgin of Guadalupe. And in Ajijic, we have a beautiful chapel right on the plaza dedicated to Our Lady of del Rosario. Our Lady of del Rosario, Our Lady of the Rosary, the Catholic play. So it was here in Mexico that I entered a world of people living close to the unconscious, keeping in vital connection with rituals and ceremonies that carry so many pre-Hispanic elements. Here, I saw the new and the old intertwined in a rich cacophony of great beauty and magic that I only touched again in later travels to Bali and India. I found my spirit to be nourished as his fertile land invite me exploration to the inner world, supporting me as it's supporting you in this beautiful environment. I bet that every one of you feel that support in the background of the gentleness of these people. It is in this Mexican landscape that I was able to have the first glimpse of the goddess as a real force that was still alive in many native cultures with such a power that Catholicism was unable to suppress, was impossible. On the contrary, the Catholic Church learned to assimilate her own adoration to the Virgin of Mary into the various native feminine images existing for generations before the Spanish brought their religion here. What is important to understand, very important, is that the Virgin of Guadalupe is not the same, metaphorically speaking, than the Virgin of Mary. The Virgin of Guadalupe, she doesn't have a child in her arm. She's known as a brown-skinned woman, and the snake in her feet is not the symbol of evil, as the early Catholics interpreted, and not just the early, as the Catholic in totality interpreted. Rather, the snake is the most important symbol that exists in both Eastern and Western and ancient civilization, including here, among the indigenous Mexican culture. As the clinical psychologist Dr. Romina Sochner, also known to being a co-translator of Carl Jung's Red Book, expressed it, I quoting, "The archetype of the snake shares with the feminine and ultimately with the soul its mediating aspect and its connection to the mystery of life, death, and transformation. The symbol of the serpent is always revealed as the fundamental protagonist of the most decisive mythical events. As such, the serpent is present as a symbol leading toward the eternal feminine, because it's there where the mystery of transformation dwells. It changed the skin periodically, it renewed itself, and it's in every mythology that we can read about. Doesn't matter from what side you go. Even today, walking through the street of Ajijic, you can see snake murals everywhere. Even when the artist may not know literally the meaning of why they are that impulse to paint it here, to do this mural, to do it there, is because the archetype, that is a collective blueprint in the psyche of humanity, wanted to manifest, and it will do it over and over and over. The primal image of the Virgin of Guadalupe, how arose in Mexico, and here I borrow from Alicia Mayer, historian and research professor of the Autonomous National University of Mexico. She said, "The cult of the Virgin of Guadalupe in Mexico is much more than a religious expression. It's a fundamental pillar of national and cultural identity. It goes beyond the church. With a history dating back more than 4th century, this devotion has become deeply rooted in the fabric of Mexican society and spectacularly manifests itself every December 12th, when millions, literally, millions of believers converge on Tepeyac Hill in Mexico City. And I will be there, the 12th, to witness it. The image of the Virgin that appeared in the apparition is described as a young woman with black hair and darkened skin, which is why the Virgin of Guadalupe is sometimes referred to as La Virgen Morena, the brown-skinned Virgin. The Virgin told Juan Diego to go and tell to the local bishop to build a church on this hill. And Juan Diego did as he was told. However, the bishop was left unconvinced by the story and gave him the short shrift. Goodbye. So the Virgin decided to appear again, once more, and try. And on the second occasion, told Juan Diego to collect flowers from the top of the hill. Flowers on the top of the hill. Being December, Juan did not expect, yeah. So you can walk through so that people can see. But upon this arrival, he found that the hill was covered with beautiful flowers. And that is the Mexican folklore. Mexicans do this everywhere in their artistic expression. So he arrived, he found that everywhere is covered with beautiful flowers. So using his whippeal, took it in, put it into his, and went to the bishop. The bishop, looking at these flowers, how that happened, saw the image of Guadalupe imprinted into the whippeal. So convinced it was a miracle, he ordered the building of the Church of the Hill in Tepeyac at the precise location where the current day the basilica is situated in Mexico City, because that had to be faithful. Why this apparition occurred on this peculiar hill? Why there? Because the indigenous people had the shrine in Tepeyac of the goddess that was the mother of the gods, called Tonantzin. So this shrine has been a place where people will come even from South America, because in the archaeological investigation has been found rests of ceramic that were not produced in this area. So they will come in this pilgrimage to do ceremony and offering in this place. So for indigenous people, this is Tonantzin. You don't mess with it. She is the one who is the mother of the gods. That is why the Virgin symbol are the moon under her feet and the snake that in ancient cultures represent the great goddess, the eternal feminine. If you happen to travel in Mexico everywhere and get in touch with the pre-Hispanic museum, you're going to find the snake whatever you step in. It's part of this embedment of this culture. So but why the Virgin of Guadalupe transcend the religious context and become the symbol of Mexico identity? Well, during the insurrection of Mexico, independence from the Spanish crown, an important figure emerged, Juan Diego Ramón Adauto, who abandoned his studies in 1811 and joined the independence movement and changed his name to Guadalupe Victoria. Very important. The fact that a man do something like that. Why? Well, no, his devotion to the Virgin of Guadalupe was so strong, and his belief that the victory was coming, so he called himself Guadalupe Victoria. That means victory. So with this name, he will be remembered in golden letters in the history of Mexico as the president of the as the first president of the Mexican Federal Republic. It's huge. he made the abolition of slavery effective to everyone, so that all the inhabitants of the country were free. Guadalupe Victoria embodied the vision of the Virgin of Guadalupe to free her people and care for them. So, as you can tell, a real Mexico, the first time that emerged, really, Mexico as a republic that is free, a new identity is totally linked to the Virgin of Guadalupe. It's impossible to don't have that kind of link, psychologically and archetypically in people who live in that kind of energy. So that is why the reason that is an identity for the whole country, because with that, a new people was born. Further of the Mexican Republic, his values has been taken now in this time. Actually, this time, the fourth transformation, as they call, with the new presidency, go back to Guadalupe Victoria, take all what he offered to his people and bring it back. And one of the most important things is caring for the poor, and the indigenous population of the country, to a degree that in the Constitution, the amendment of the Constitution, is that the original pueblos, the original people, need to keep their land, their language, and much more than that. It's a totally shifting in the history of Mexico. Even this party, Morena, had actually taken the name from the Virgin Morena, from the Virgin of Guadalupe. So we're talking about the capacity that we humanity have to really reemerge from the condition that Mexico has lived for many years to now, of suppression and many more, to come back with this new vision of what is necessary and what is possible by going back and coming back. So today we have Claudia Sheinbaum, who is the president or la presidenta of the Morena, who actually is the one who has been asked to write the principles of the party. That is a very revolutionary. A woman is being asked to be the one who writes what this nation actually needs to be able to come out from corruption, from violence, and much more. It's a very unique phenomenon. She's committed to continue to take Mexico to this new plateau of ending corruption, creating a university for young people, supporting women. And one thing that she does, who take care of the children in the house? And the people respond from the public, women. Who take care even of their husband? Women. Who clean the house? Women. Who do the cooking? Women. And then she say, who pay them? Nobody. So she had created a fund for women between certain age to receive money for the work that they're doing in the home. We're talking about something totally interesting. So what she do emphatically is this, and I quote, "This is the time of women. I don't arrive here alone. We all arrive together. For the first time, we women are able to direct the destiny of our nation." So all of this, what is the meaning for us as individual people and individual men and individual women? So the myth of the Virgin Immaculate Conception points to the internal integration where the opposite meet within oneself. And then the Virgin is born. Although the myth doesn't refer to sexual chastity as the religious system interpreted, this process doesn't need an external mate in order to conceive, as it demonstrates that conception happens within oneself. And here we're talking about intrapsychic process. Her presence in our life as a myth can help us to remember that within us is the capacity to manifest the divine. Her birth and incarnation over and over in cultures everywhere is proof that she cannot be forgotten because she is the one where the opposites are united in a deep connection, in a deep embrace, in a profound interpretation, giving birth to the divine nature of a holy child within us. The story of the Virgin of Guadalupe is the most profound and richly important myth for us today. If we allow ourselves to explore its gift, this encounter can increase our capacity to move toward wholeness within ourselves. Through this myth, we can ultimately be led to the realization of our true nature. Here we can drink from our own life-enhancing spring, become renewed, and feel fortified when needed. This is the place of regeneration and rebirth. That is what the feminine offers, regeneration and rebirth. So the Virgin lives in potentially, in every one of us, in each human being, male and female. When this myth, or any myth, turns into a dogma and concretizes and becomes something external to believe in, the mystery of internal process of human divine emergency is preventing from being realized within ourselves. The intrapsychic phenomenon evolving towards wholeness, is short-circuited. Is get aborted. When the myth is taken literally, is the fruit of the virgin birth, it is the fruit of the virgin birth that is focused on the child, the holy child, taken to be divine. And only the child is divine. Simultaneously, the virgin is put on a pedestal to be worshipped rather than to be ignited within ourselves. Dogma does not allow us to go through the transformation process or realizing the virginal nature within us and giving birth to what lies in potential. In most religions, dogma reigns over experience, producing a profound disconnection with the mystery and its relevance in our spiritual path towards wholeness. In my experience, and that of many others, it is not from beliefs, but through observation and spiritual practice that we human beings can realize the mystery of ourselves. It is through inquiry and deep contemplation that we discover the nature of the Virgin within. And in one way or another, what is important to see is that the Virgin, in many forms, is an archetype. And an archetype is a blueprint in the human psyche that is there waiting for us to manifest. As such, the representation of the union of the feminine and masculine principle in the Virgin is where the opposite are both complementary and united. One cannot exist without the other. We live with so much perceived separation between the spiritual and the material, between the natural and humanity, and for our purpose here, between the feminine and the masculine, is a division as well. In our limited perception, we perceive the feminine and masculine as not only opposite instead of complementary, but one is better than the other, superior, stronger, etc. We all live that. Many in the field of consciousness studies have been warning us that one of the greatest challenges for the contemporary Western world consists in the integration of the feminine by a culture where consciousness has been unilaterally developed from patriarchal values. This does not mean a return to a matriarchal world as exists in ancient time. Rather, for wholeness in ourselves to be realized, We must engage in the work of integrating the opposites, both the masculine and the feminine, within ourselves. The work of integration, moving toward wholeness, happens as we experience the virginal state within ourselves. This is in fact our nature state. And how that natural state takes place, it really doesn't born, but it gets revealed when our attention turns inward, releasing from the conditioned program belief system that keep us trapped, unable to just be, free of attributes and identities, being nothing at all, innocent as a divine child. In this place, we can recognize that life is a process. It's never finished, it's never completed, it's never perfect, it's a process. It's a process.